I am Ayuma Michelle, and I have a confession to make. I have been living a dual life with my voice, and it's heavily influenced by two women in my life, my grandmothers. There is Coco, my father's mother. She was a silent and very industrious woman. There's not one time I didn't see her working with her hands. She would either be teaching me how to milk a cow, picking fresh mushrooms from the forest on our way to church on Sunday, or spanking some naughty child's bum somewhere. But today, as a modern African woman, there's something that frustrates me about her. I can hardly remember her voice. I don't know her tone. I don't know even its texture. Coco taught me that if I spoke up, something really, really bad is going to happen. But then there is Kuhu, my mother's mother. Even just speaking about her makes me feel like standing a few inches taller. I know I already look like a giraffe. But she makes me feel like walking a few inches taller because she is a powerful matriarch. And my mom can even confess to it. My mom is right over there. Kuhu speaks her mind. She tells it like it is. She is unapologetic. And even though she was the wife of a chief, my grandfather, he could not tame her, and he loved her for it. Kuhu taught me that if I spoke up, it would be radical and it would disrupt. And there are moments in my life when I've literally felt these two voices pulling and pushing me. I felt and experienced a clash of these two voices, and I didn't know which one to choose. I mean, these two are my grandmothers. But where did mine lie in between these two? One of these moments when my voice clashed, with these two voices clashed, was like when I was a teenager and I spoke with a boy. I mean, he was cute, athletic, came from a very, very powerful family in this country. And I was the class geek, the sciencey one, and I used to help him out with his homework. And when the girls in class noticed that I was speaking with him, they decided that I should be punished. So one day, on our way from the school farm, the girls noticed that we were not closely supervised by the teachers, and they chose to push me into a ditch with barbed wire. It was painful. I can't even start describing it. But more than that, it was so humiliating, and I was so angry. But at the same time, I felt so powerless. You see, this wasn't any ordinary school. This was a school where top people in this country took their kids to. Politicians, medics, lawyers, and business persons. And I also noticed how the teachers feared these kids because of who their parents were. So I couldn't even reach out to my teachers. And yes, I couldn't even tell my own parents, because they were hardworking parents who worked hard to ensure that I have a good taste of that good education. And I rewarded them by getting A's. I was doing what I was supposed to do, right? But I couldn't even dare bring on another burden onto them with these powerful parents. And so, like Coco, I chose to be silent, afraid that something really, really bad would happen if I spoke up. I walked to the girls' washroom, wiped away the blood that had been streaming down my legs, rolled up my little red school socks, and walked home. I regret staying silent. And by this time, it had been 3 years of being bullied in school. It had escalated from social bullying to emotional bullying. These girls made sure that I knew that I was at the bottom of the food chain when it came to even being seen. And unfortunately, I believed their false story. And now it was being physical. And the more I helped these boys in class, the more they kept referring. I should have started a business, you guys. The more the boys spoke with me, the worse the bullying got. And so something in me told me that I needed to figure out my own medicine, create it for myself, because no one was going to fight it for me. So I teamed up with the school librarian and decided that, like every geek would, go to the library during break time and lunchtime and hide in there so that the bullies couldn't find me. I mean, the last place they would find me is in the library. And just as you would walk into your favorite restaurant and order your favorite drink or meal, I walked into the library. And I would find the librarian stacked. She'd stacked some books about astronomy. And I remember just how amazing it was, just delving deep into the world of science. Because my dream was to become an astronaut. And science was my escape. I saw how I would, travel all around these galaxies. And I had known so much information about even the different types of particles in different planets. Yes, I had so much time. But as the bullying got worse, science couldn't save me. I needed to literally come back down to Earth from space and figure out this stuff that I was going through. And so I explored a different part of the library, the arts side. And I remember it was a very exciting time in East African literature because the library was stocked up with amazing books written by African authors. And when I was reading these books, I realized that, hey, this thing about fitting in is not exclusive to me. But there's so many kids out there. At that time, I believe these were real stories, right? I couldn't tell the difference between fiction and real stories. And I realized that there were so many scenarios in which people couldn't fit in, and that it is okay. And then I figured out that, hey, there were actual solutions. And from these examples of these kids, I learned that, my goodness, I too can get out of this. But I was also curious, was this bullying thing just an African kid thing? And so I explored the international side of the library. I fell in love with the American Girl classics, a series of books about different American girls from different states, facing different realities. And I realized a thread. They too did not fit in one way or another. And so I learned that not only was it a me thing, it was also an African kid thing, an American kid thing, meaning it's a global thing. And because of these authors, these brave authors who took pen and paper, put in their energy and translated and helped me find the vocabulary for bullying, I challenged myself to do the same. Pen and paper, I delved into the world of journaling. And I put in so much energy into it that it started pouring into my school essays and inshas. I started totaling 30 out of 30 in my essays. And I remember Mr. Kabura, my English teacher, he took notice and invited me in front of class to read out loud my story. You guys, I was so afraid because these kids just had enough of me. But here I was in front of the class with my A4 essay book. 30 out of 30, grinning, tall, fellow giraffe, English teacher. But the class looked at me with a strong warning. Don't make us do it again. But I did it anyway. Because though I held on to that book, my hands shaking, something in my voice didn't. I had trained it long enough to be still. and to say what I needed to say. After reading out my story, I looked up from my book, and there was silence in the room, followed by an applaud, which was a real shock to me. Coming from these kids, half the class were the same people who'd been bullying me for 3 whole years. And I kid you not when I say that that was the last day I was bullied in school. At 14 years old, I found my voice. But what came afterwards? What comes after you find your voice? I had no idea that it would be tougher. And I must be honest that not all times did I have the strength to stand up for my voice and speak up. Like when a man I loved lay on top of me, raping me, and I didn't know how to say no. I literally didn't know how to. And so I lay down and cried until it was all over. Like Coco, I believed that if I spoke up, something really, really bad would happen. But there were times when I said, enough is enough. I must speak up, now or never. Like when I recently applied for a job at an international organization that claimed to serve African farmers. And after going through a rigorous 3-month interview, I realized that they exploited my expertise. And these guys made me feel like I was rubbish, made me feel like I was inexperienced, made me feel like I was not good enough to serve the very same farmers who worked hard, paid the expensive seat that I now sit on as a professional. These farmers worked hard, and I remember various times when my parents told me that because of farm produce, my school fees was paid. So I started an online campaign, which lasted for a week long. Fellow Africans, East Africans, came on and spoke up about the unethical, biased, and just very racist recruitment systems in the current market. Many people teamed up and they spoke up about it. These conversations went into HR departments, went into living rooms of fellow Kenyans and East Africans. And I remember one young man reaching out to me and telling me, "Thank you for sharing your story." I thought that I was trash. But thanks to you, I now learned that I can do better. Like Kuhu, I believed that sometimes speaking up is radical, that it will disrupt. But if you don't do it, you can't give other people permission to do the same. And so what's in a voice? And why is it important for each one of us to get into the business to find our voices? Well, there's a time I watched a news feature about butterfly farming in Kenya. And this researcher shared how a mother butterfly, when she's about to lay her eggs, she will flap her wings near and far looking for the right tree that sustains the species of her babies, her species. And if she doesn't, she will choose to die with her eggs inside her, knowing that even though she lays her eggs on the wrong tree, her babies won't live long enough to be sustained by it. And I feel and I believe that this closely mirrors the great challenge that many African women face today. Accepting to put other people first, other people's dreams and aspirations and everything ahead of themselves. Choosing to come second, third, or last in their own lives. And I think the most frustrating thing to do is to choose every day to die to yourself and to your dreams, because you're putting other people first. And I have a dream. I have a dream to one day build a retreat center at the Kenyan coast, where African women can check in from near and far, wherever they are in the world, and learn how to find their voices, actively work on their dreams, and have a support community of fellow African sisters walking on a similar intentional journey with them. I believe in this dream so much that I'm already working on it. I have invested in it, started a savings account where I'm daily funding my dream, sought mentorship from one of the best retreat facilitators in the world, and she's currently guiding me on how to recreate that retreat experience here in Nairobi. I've done research and development to figure out what kind of dreams do African women have and what's holding them back. And I've teamed up with a couple of corporates who are intentional about investing in African women. But most importantly, I'm standing here before you as an example of what it looks like when a woman has found a voice and is working on her dreams. If I hadn't found my voice, I wouldn't have served 14 Pan-African corporates through change management communications, allowing these managers who are fierce about their Pan-African visions and helping them through transitions. I wouldn't have served more than 330 women, African women from across the globe, on how to find their confidence and live out loud 100% woman being. I wouldn't have produced 33 beautiful Pan-African animation scripts where the prominent characters, the protagonists, are women. If I can do this, so can you. And I believe that inside each one of us, there is a voice that does not give in to fear nor doubt, and it is not hurt. It is fearless. But the question is, are you willing to listen to it? Are you willing to let it guide you? Thank you for listening to my voice.